Would you like to see my vintage mass market paperbacks? Because they're really cute and I'd love to show you them. Hello everybody, I am really excited because the other day I hauled some new books and 4 of them were really amazing vintage mass market paperbacks, and I mentioned that I have a little collection of them. I think they deserve their own video because they're just so cool. So the first 3 are from the Narnia series by C.S. Lewis. The first one is actually the second book, and that is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. The third book is The Horse and His Boy, and the 4th book is Prince Caspian. But these covers are seriously so cool, and I think they are from HarperCollins, if I am correct. Yes, they're from HarperCollins. I believe they were printed in the 90s. The copyright says that it is from 1994. I forgot to tell you in my book haul, but they're actually fully illustrated as well with the original illustrations. I'm not sure if every single copy of the Narnia series is illustrated, but these do have the original pen and ink illustrations, which are just so beautiful. The first one that I showed you is probably one of my all-time favorites. I just love the composition, and the detail is so beautiful. So here again is the cover. It is unbelievably beautiful. Here is the 3rd one close up. Again, such a cool composition. And then this is the 4th one, Prince Caspian. Again, very interesting composition. These vintage style covers just make me want to read them even more, and I kind of wish that we had more traditional vintage style covers still being made and printed today, because they're just so enchanting and charming and beautiful and detailed. And I just thought I would show you the spines as well, and the backs pretty much all look the same. The other incredibly cool vintage mass market paperback that I showed in my recent haul is this one, and this is Magister Ludi by Hermann Hesse. It says recently published as The Glass Bead Game. So this book is no longer published under the title Magister Ludi, it is only under the title The Glass Bead Game. So this is a really unique copy because it's no longer under that title. And look at this cover illustration. Is that not the coolest thing you've ever seen? It's just unbelievably detailed. I love the color choices. The composition is so incredibly interesting, and it makes me want to read it. It makes me want to read it so bad. This my husband actually picked out because he loves Hermann Hesse. I've only read Siddhartha, and I would love to read more, and this is one of them that he and I would both really love to read. This is published from Bantam, which is one of my favorite publishers that does these vintage mass market paperbacks, and it was published in October of 1970. All of the Bantam books has this symbol on the top. I really love Bantam as a publisher. So those are my 4 new acquisitions, and then I will show you the ones that I've had for a little while. It's a stack on my bookshelf. Not all of them are vintage, but I do keep most of my vintage books over here. Some of them are just small, so it's like either mass market vintage or just a small book like this one. This is Christopher Isherwood's A Single Man, and this is from Picador Modern Classics. They came out with these really adorable little modern classic editions, and they're so incredibly small. As you can see, it's even smaller than a mass market paperback, and this is actually the copy that I read A Single Man from, and it was such a wonderful reading experience. Sorry, the lighting. I think the sun is going behind a cloud. But it was such a wonderful reading experience. I love really small books. I really enjoyed it when I read it, but it's not an all-time favorite. I don't talk about it a ton, although I do know a lot of people do enjoy it. There's some very high praise for it on the back from Robert McCrum. He is from The Guardian, and it says, "A Single Man is widely recognized as Isherwood's supreme achievement, as much a work of compressed brilliance as Chopin's Ballad No. 4. Wow. I read it so many years ago. It involves a beautiful, heartbreaking relationship and what happens when grief enters that situation. And it's a really thought-provoking, interesting book, and I feel like I can't say too much about it without giving it away, but this is just such a cute edition. I know they came out with other books in this series as well, but yeah, Picador Modern Classics. The next three that I have are all from J.D. Salinger, and they're all the Bantam books. I love Bantam, like I said. So the first one is this vintage copy of The Catcher in the Rye. I love The Catcher in the Rye. It was one of my least favorite, probably my least favorite classic ever until I reread it. So I read it first in high school, completely hated it, absolutely hated it. And then I reread it a couple of years ago and I fell in love with it. So there's a whole reading vlog which I can link in the cards and you can hear all of my thoughts about The Catcher in the Rye. I really love this edition. I think I found it on Depop, I believe. I used to get quite a few vintage books on Depop. I don't really use it anymore. What I love about it is that it's the same on the back and the front, which is such an interesting design. And when this came out, it was 75 cents. Can you imagine books being 75 cents? Because I can't. I believe this is the 23rd printing and it is from April 1964. And the spine is kind of coming apart. So I am being very careful with not messing it up, but I did read from it, as you can tell from my tabs. This is the copy that I read from when I reread it, so I'm going to just be very careful from now on. I'm probably not going to read from this copy anymore, but this one is very special to me. The other two J.D. Salinger books I haven't read yet. The first one is Franny and Zoe, and the other one is his 9 stories. This is a short story collection. Franny and Zoe, I believe, is either a novel or 2 short stories, Franny and then Zoe. But I think that they kind of go together. I haven't read either of these yet. I really want to at some point soon. I don't know when. I love The Catcher in the Rye so much, which is so weird to say because for so many years I was like, it's my least favorite book. You know, Holden Caulfield is so annoying. I think it's just a really misunderstood book. But anyway, I'm really excited about these. Franny and Zoe is, again, like I said, it's from Bantam. This one was $3.50 when it was published. I don't know if this used bookseller is still selling books on her Instagram, but this is where I got this book from. Her Instagram, I will link it down below if it's still running. It's called Fox Used Books, and the Instagram is at Fox Used Books. So I just thought I would let you guys know where I got that one from. I forgot to mention, but the 4 books that I recently picked up from my local independent bookshop. So definitely look out for local independent bookshops or different secondhand bookshops. They usually carry a lot of these types of books. So this copy of Franny and Zoe is the 40th printing from October 1985. 9 stories. I love this cover. I think that the color choice is really interesting, and I love that each title, I believe, because it's 9 squares, each one is the different short story title. I love this font. I also love when vintage mass market paperbacks get a little bit like scuffed and not completely ripped, but you know what I mean? Like they look like they've been well loved, well read. This one was $2.50 when it was published, which again is just so crazy. This one is the 24th printing from November 1980. And like The Catcher in the Rye, the front is the same as the back. A little bit different, but the same design, which is just so cool. Count how many times I've said cool in this video. Can you tell I think vintage mass market paperbacks are cool? The next 3 I have are all from the same author, and they're also all from Bantam Books. The first 2 are the same book, but they have different covers. These 2 I found, I think this one I found on that Instagram that I just told you about, Fox Used Books, and this one I found at my local independent bookshop. So this is a separate piece by John Knowles. This is one of my favorite books that I feel like I need to talk more about. The backs are also really cool as well. I love the typography and just the whole vibe of them. It says, Jean, who is our main character and narrator, was a lonely, introverted intellectual. Phineas was a handsome, taunting daredevil athlete. What happened between them at school one summer during the early years of World War II is the subject of a separate piece. a great bestseller for almost a decade, one of the most starkly moving parables ever written of the dark forces that brood over the tormented world of adolescence. So it's about these two boys. Gene really is comparing himself to Phineas, is fascinated by Phineas. There's a lot of underlying things going on that you could read into. I don't want to say too much, but something quite major happens and it really changes the trajectory of their lives. And then there's also this backdrop of World War II going on that does play a role in the characters' lives as well. It's beautiful, it's heartbreaking, it's thought-provoking, and it's one of my favorite books. If you love Dead Poet Society, I really feel like you will like the vibe of this book. Then also from John Knowles, this one I haven't read yet. I also found it at my independent bookshop, and that is Phineas. So it says, the brilliant new work by the author of A Separate Piece. This is obviously no longer new, so that is really cool as well. John Knowles is a writer with something to say. He said it in A Separate Piece, which won him instant success and universal acclaim as America's finest young writer. I don't exactly know what this book is about, although I'm assuming it follows Phineas, or it closely relates to the events of A Separate Piece. But when I found this, I got so excited. It matches this edition as well. Again, I wish that books were illustrated like this again, and the typography, just everything about them I find so beautiful and interesting, and it makes me want to read them. It makes me want to pick them up, maybe just for nostalgia's sake, but I think they're gorgeous. Again, here are the spines, and like I said, they're all from Bantam Books. This copy of A Separate Piece is from October 1975. This one is from July 1969. Again, very cool. And then this copy of Phineas is from December 1969. The next book is A Room with a View by E.M. Forster. This is one of my all-time favorite books. This is an older movie tie-in edition, which I love the movie so much. It's gorgeous. The cinematography is amazing. So I don't normally gravitate towards movie tie-in editions and movie covers, but I loved this one so much. There was something so nostalgic and sweet about it. It says now a major motion picture on the cover, and it is from Vintage Classics. This is the third printing from April 1986. I love this book so much. If you haven't read it, I definitely recommend it. Also, the back is really cool too. It has pictures of the cast from the movie. So, such a beautiful cover. This is forever one of my favorite books of all time. The next two books I have are from Penguin. This one, they're not vintage, they're more modern, but this is the Great Ideas series, and this is Days of Reading by Marcel Proust. This is the Great Ideas number 53. This was the first work of Proust's that I've read, and it's basically just about reading. In these inspiring essays about why we read, Proust explores all the pleasures and trials that we take from books, as well as explaining the beauty of Ruskin and his work, and the joys of losing yourself in literature as a child. I really enjoyed this when I read it, although it's a little bit foggy in my brain now, but these are such gorgeous editions, and I think it's a great way to introduce yourself to an author that maybe you're unfamiliar with. So highly recommend these, they're great. Again, this one is more modern and it is from Penguin, but this is from the Great Loves series, and this is Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. This book is being hyped up so much on the internet for very good reason. It is an incredibly beautiful story. I love James Baldwin so much. This is one of my favorite of his, as well as If Beale Street Could Talk. That's another one of my favorite books of his, but this one is so beautiful. I love this cover. It's absolutely gorgeous, and there are some other books in this series as well. I'm not sure if all of them are still in print, and I kind of forgot where I got this one, although I do think Penguin Modern might have a similar cover to this one, but I'm not sure if this one is still in print. Another really cool feature about this one is that the cover is actually embossed and slightly raised, so it has a bit of a texture, which is really pretty. And then these are some of the other books in the Great Ideas series. The next book is also from Bantam Books, but I think this one is a bit more modern, and that is Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. This is the edition that I first read Great Expectations from, and it has become my favorite Charles Dickens book ever. I highly recommend starting your Dickens journey with this one. If not this one, then A Christmas Carol, which is much shorter and I think a bit less daunting. But Great Expectations is one of the best stories. I really think it's Dickens at his best. Everything that he does so brilliantly, he does in this story. And this one is from June 2003. This next book is an absolute beast, and it is Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. On the cover it says, a Pulitzer Prize winning epic masterpiece of the American West. I have never read a Western, but I feel like I'm going to love them. And this is such a long story, but I've heard nothing but absolutely incredible things about it. I feel like this might be my next War and Peace, or my next East of Eden, or my next Anna Karenina. I associate these long epics with just becoming all-time favorites, with becoming life-changing books, and I really feel like I'm going to love this one. This one was gifted to me by a subscriber. I forget who, so if it was you, thank you so much. I am so excited to read this one, and I don't know when I will get to it, but I'm very excited about it. And this edition is so cool. It is from Pocket Books Fiction, and this is the 25th anniversary edition with a new preface by the author. I believe this one was printed in 1986. This next book is also from Bantam, and that is Anne Frank's Diary of a Young Girl. This is, again, I think a little bit more modern. I read this in middle school, and it completely changed the way that I viewed history. I remember being so fascinated by her story and so inspired by her story, and I remember feeling like it was the first time that we were taken seriously in history class. At least this is my memory and my perception. Maybe it's clouded by childhood, but I felt like it was the first time that we were really learning about something super emotionally important. I feel like a lot of history is brought to children in a way of it's just like names and dates. It's not really a person's story. I just remember being so impacted by her story. Especially when you're a kid, you feel quite detached. At least I'm speaking from my own experience, but I felt quite detached from history, just the way that I perceived it and the way that I felt like it was being taught to me. This was the first time that I really could almost picture myself in her situation, probably because we were able to read such an intimate account of her experiences. But this is a important, so important story to read, and a beautiful story, heartbreaking story, and I'm so glad that Anne wrote this diary, and she is just an absolute inspiration. She's amazing. This one is, like I said, from Bantam. There is the translator. I really don't want to butcher their name, but then you could also see that lovely photo of Anne. They also have some more photographs as well. Wow. Oh, that's amazing. This one was printed by Bantam in July 1993. This next cover is another one of the coolest ones. I believe it's from the same subscriber that sent me Lonesome Dove, but I'm not 100% sure. This is from Warner Books, and it is The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco. Look at that cover illustration. Is that not the coolest composition? I love that the spine is cracked because it just looks like it's well read and well loved. I have yet to read The Name of the Rose, but I'm really excited to. I want to at some point in the future because I love Italian literature. I'm not in a huge rush to read it, but if you guys recommend it, maybe it'll get boosted up to my priority list. But I love this edition so much. It is incredibly beautiful. And this one says First Warner Books Printing, June 1984, and it was reissued in September in 1986. So I believe this one is from 1986. This next one is an absolutely beautiful edition of 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I read this book a few years ago, and I really felt like so much of it went over my head, and I would love to do a reread because I wasn't in love with it as much as I was expecting to. I think because I kind of got a bit lost in the narrative. It might be because I was physically reading it and listening to the audiobook, and sometimes that's great, but for this type of story, I feel like I really need to physically read the entire thing. so I definitely am due for a reread. I don't want to say too much about it because I feel like I am not a good authority on what this book is about and how to properly describe it. What I will say is that this is a founding pillar in the magical realism subgenre or genre, and that part of the story I loved. I love the magical realism aspects of it, and it's also multi-generational. And I think something else that confused me a lot was a lot of the generations had the same name, so I wasn't exactly sure who was being referred to because they were all called the same name, if that makes sense. But this edition is absolutely gorgeous. I love this cover so much. Here is the spine and the back. This is from the publisher Avon Bard, which I've never heard of before, but it was $4.95 when it was first printed, and this copy is from May 1971. The next book is Man of La Mancha, which is a play, and it is written by Dale Wasserman, lyrics by Joe Darian, and music by Mitch Lee. This is inspired by the story of Don Quixote, and Man of La Mancha is a musical. It has an incredible adaptation with Peter O'Toole playing Don Quixote, and I love Don Quixote so much. It's one of my favorite stories, and I love Man of La Mancha. I also love the music from Man of La Mancha. It is from the publisher Dell, which again I'm not familiar with. I think that's also really interesting, just seeing the different publishers that publish these vintage mass market paperbacks. Again, such a beautifully illustrated cover. I love the font so much. Here is the spine, and then on the back it looks like this, and I believe that's supposed to be an illustration of Dulcinea, which is the main female character of the play. Love the illustration, of course. It's such an iconic moment in the book and in the play. And finally, the last two books I wanted to show you are from George Orwell. This one is Animal Farm, and it's a bit more modern, and this one is more vintage, and this is 1984. Animal Farm is such an iconic story, such a powerful, profound story, so thought-provoking, and George Orwell is a genius. This is from Signet Classics, and this one I think is like the copy that you can find still in bookshops. I don't think it's technically vintage, but I just wanted to show it to you because it's a mass market paperback. Yeah, see, this one was $10 when it was sold, so this is definitely more modern. It says that the preface copyright in this edition is from 1996, but I believe the actual book was printed probably in the 2000s. And then this incredibly cool cover of 1984, it's so awesome. This is also from Signet Classics, and it says George Orwell's 1984 with a special preface by Walter Cronkite, and on the top corner it says $2.95. When this book was printed, it was $2.95. Incredible. Again, love the typography, love the colors. Here's the spine, and then the back. Oh my god, this one was published in 1983, which is the year before 1984. This is such a cool edition, and I'm so happy to have it in my collection. But I think that is the last book that I wanted to show you in my vintage mass market paperback collection. Here they all are. I'm gonna step back so you can see. I just love a book that has a history and that has a character, a personality all of its own, just from the style of the cover and the fact that it was maybe read by a few other people before me. So I love these so much, and I'm very happy to have shared them with you today. So I hope you enjoyed seeing my collection of mass market paperbacks, and I would love to know how you feel about mass market paperbacks. I know some people don't love them, some people love them. Personally, obviously, I love them. I would love to know if you have any in your collection, if you like collecting vintage books, if you've read any of the books that I've mentioned, what do you think of them? And I hope you're having an absolutely wonderful day. I am sending you my very best wishes, and I will see you soon in another video. As always, happy reading.